Good morning. This is the Moms Interrupted podcast. If you're watching our video, you're going to be like, where's Taylor? And I also feel that way. Where is Taylor? She had a baby. And so I'm recording solo today for the first time and I feel naked, but I'm going to do my best. I'm going to talk about trying to conceive and pregnancy, my experiences. And I've been hesitant to sort of share this story because I never want to sound like I'm complaining. I just feel like the mommy bitching, whining culture is out. I love being a mother. Taylor and I love motherhood. We're so passionate about helping other moms and creating community and making motherhood fun again. And I just don't want to ever come off as ungrateful or a complainer. So all of that being said, the reason why I want to share it is because I didn't know how to advocate for myself in my first pregnancy. I have always sort of been a people pleaser, and I just took whatever my care team said at face value, and it sort of made me feel insecure about all of the things I was feeling. Anyways, I'll get into it. So my first pregnancy, I got pregnant when I was 27, shortly after our 2020 COVID wedding. We decided we wanted to start trying right away. We didn't know how long it was going to take. Obviously, no one does. So we just said, this could take a while. Let's just start trying. I immediately, as a type A person myself, got onto Reddit. I got onto the blogs. I started reading all of the things to do, educating myself on ovulation and cycle length and the luteal phase, the follicular phase, all of the things. I bought the test strips. I bought everything that was marketed at me to try out to see if I could increase my chances of getting pregnant sooner rather than later. I was lucky enough to get pregnant on the 3rd month. I don't feel like people talk enough about all of the waiting that comes with pregnancy. First, you wait 2 weeks until you're ovulating, and then you wait 2 weeks to see if you're pregnant. And then you get pregnant and you wait 4 more weeks until your first appointment, and then 4 more weeks to get out of the first trimester. Then you're waiting for the anatomy scan. So it's just so much waiting. And when you want something so bad, even though 3 months is statistically a very short time, when you want something so bad, it doesn't feel short. It feels like a lot of waiting. There's so many unknowns. And as someone who is a recovering control freak, I found this process to be incredibly unsettling and frustrating. Not knowing if you can get pregnant, how long it's going to take, looking up all the statistics. I want to say it's 50% of women get pregnant when they're trying within the first 6 months. This is for women under the age of 35. And then 90% of couples will be pregnant within the first year of trying. And if you've ever been trying and getting your period, I mean, it's so disappointing month after month. So I just want to acknowledge that. It is not a good feeling. And after a few months, it can start to feel really depressing. So that being said, I know that 3 months is a short amount of time statistically. And I have 2 beautiful and healthy children, and I'm so grateful for them. And also, I want to acknowledge that the journey to get there is a journey. It is not the beautiful Pinterest board worthy journey that I thought it was going to be. When I got pregnant, I found out 10 days past ovulation, because of course I did. I took a pregnancy test as soon as I possibly could every single month. And I kept taking them multiple times a day because that's what you do when you're me. And 10 days post ovulation, I had probably at least 3 pregnancy tests, every different brand that you could think of, confirming. And then I started making my Pinterest board. What was the pregnancy fashion going to look like? What were the baby moon options? What was I going to wear on the baby moon? All of the pictures. I mean, it was peak COVID, but I didn't have a wedding and I thought COVID was going to end sooner rather than later. So I had big plans for the fashion and the outfits and the trips. And about 2 days after I missed my period, I was humbled. I'll never forget. I was cooking Japanese curry and I thought to myself, that does not smell good. Sauteing an onion. I kept cooking and I choked down that vegetable Japanese curry. And I called my mom and I said, I don't know, I'm like not feeling good. And she said, well, you're pregnant. You probably, are starting to feel nauseous. I was like, no way. Like, I'm not even 6 weeks. Everyone talks about you start feeling sick around 6 weeks. And I started asking my mom, when did you start feeling sick? And she said, oh, I never really felt sick. Some smells made me feel funny and I had some aversions to food, but I never had real nausea or anything. So I thought, no, that can't be it. I must just be having an off night. To my surprise, I was not having an off night. The vomiting quickly ensued and it did not let up. I was nauseous from the moment I opened my eyes in the morning to the moment that I went to sleep at night. And when I say nauseous, I mean on the verge of vomiting at any moment. I was working from home because it was COVID. And I would sit with my laptop on the bathroom floor, dry heaving all day. My worst times of the day were the afternoon. So I would start vomiting usually between 3 and 5 and all evening. I couldn't keep anything down. Maybe some saltine crackers, maybe some toast, but the smell of butter would make me throw up. It got to the point where I couldn't even keep water down. So 7 in the morning, I would open my eyes and just go straight to the kitchen to grab a Coca-Cola. It's the only liquid I could keep down. So I'm waiting for my first appointment and I'm just getting sicker and sicker by the day. The nausea does not let up. Lots of well-meaning people, family, friends had different remedies that always worked for them or that I should try that I hadn't thought of. Acupuncture, pregnancy massage, just more rest, something salty, something sour. The list goes on for anecdotal remedies that people recommend, but nothing worked. And I would say almost everything made me vomit. Going in for my 8-week appointment, having lost some weight, and they said, this is normal. It's normal to feel nauseous. It's normal to have some vomiting. I got a confirmed heartbeat and I was just so relieved and happy to have a healthy pregnancy that I just said, it doesn't matter. Like all that matters is a healthy baby. I'll never forget leaving that appointment and being like, okay, so I just go home and continue on. There was no, you need to change your lifestyle. I don't know. I was just expecting more guidance, having never gone through it before. And they just basically checked the heartbeat, said, keep taking your prenatal vitamins. I couldn't take my prenatal vitamin, by the way. Could never keep that down, both of my pregnancies. But I just hoped that the prenatal vitamin stores that I had built up prior to getting pregnant were carrying me through, because the diet consisted of saltine crackers, Coca-Cola, and dry toast. An occasional mac and cheese, Kraft specifically. You know how when you're pregnant and you just revert back to your childhood favorites? For some reason, Kraft mac and cheese. So I got past that 8-week appointment. Everyone said, you're almost to the end of the first trimester, 12, 13 weeks, and there's going to be some let up. So I just kept pushing through. 10 weeks, I had a meeting that I was supposed to present on. I had my deck all ready, had it queued up, and I had to call my boss 10 minutes before I was supposed to present to our team. But I had to call him and say, Bob, I'm pregnant and I'm dry heaving and I can't stop dry heaving. Can you cover for me on this meeting? I had not planned to tell my work yet. Everyone tells you, keep it a secret. Don't tell anyone until after you get through the first trimester because it's not a guarantee. In that same vein, they tell you, but if you're vomiting, if you're sick, that's a great sign. That means your hormones are working. And so I kept saying to myself, okay, this is a good sign that I'm sick, but don't tell your work. Don't tell anyone yet because it's not for sure. So Bob, being the angel that he was, an angel boss, he said, don't worry, I'll cover for you. It's no big deal. So shout out to Bob. So I was expecting some let up around 12, 13 weeks. That day did not come for me. I continued to vomit every day for 7.5, 8 hours a day. And I called my OB and the medical assistant told me, the doctor says that if you're vomiting for less than 8 hours a day, then it's within the normal range. So I said, okay, I must just be weaker than other moms because this is crazy to me. I was starting to feel depressed. I was starting to feel like I couldn't do it. And I just kept getting told that it's in the normal range. Try ginger, try the seasickness bands. I was given a list of pregnancy approved things to try. Unisom, nothing worked. I was so perplexed because my mom had none of these symptoms. And so she not only didn't know how to help, but she also was just like, this does not seem normal. I'm like, all right, it feels not normal, but at the same time, people keep telling me it's normal. And I'm just going to push through and hope that my beautiful Pinterest-worthy pregnancy starts at that point. 12, 13 weeks passes. still nauseous from sun up to sundown. My only relief is sleep, and the depression starts to sort of set in, and the guilt from being depressed about being pregnant, because this is something not only that I wanted so badly and was so excited about, but also I know that I'm lucky to be pregnant. So many people struggle with loss, with infertility. And so many factors just running through your head. Like, you shouldn't feel depressed because every pregnant woman goes through these things, and you just need to toughen up. I really felt like my body was failing me and that I was just mentally not strong enough like other women must be. So it's just sort of a total mind fuck. And around 16 weeks, I said, enough is enough. I got to get out of here for my mental health, right? I got to get out of the house because that is not benefiting me. And so it was a friend's birthday, and she was having a birthday dinner. And I said, screw it. I'm going. I don't care. I got to get out of this house. So I get to the birthday dinner, and I'm hanging in there. I order my Coca-Cola. It's an Italian restaurant. Normally, that would be right up my alley. Every pregnant woman's dream to be at an Italian restaurant. But the dinner time hours were tough for me. I'm having flashbacks even thinking about the dinner time hours during pregnancy. My first pregnancy anyway. All of the food smelled disgusting. All of the smells of so many different plates coming out, the hustle and bustle of the restaurant. I felt hot and sweaty, just like disgusted. So I find myself in the bathroom, dry heaving over a public restroom, just a situation that you never want to be in. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So I tell my good friend who's also at the birthday dinner, I said, this is not working. She says, okay, I'll go with you. So we hop in my car. I'm like, okay, I'll drop you off. So I'm driving her home, and I'm like, Val, I'm going to throw up. And she goes, do you have a bag or something? We're at a red light. I'm in the middle lane. I go, no, when the light turns green though, I'm going to pull over. So we're waiting for the light to turn green. When I tell you that I projectile vomited all over myself in my car with my friend in the passenger seat, the look on her face, she was in pure shock. We proceeded to pull over once the light turned green. She went into my trunk and found a towel and maybe a bag of clothes that I was taking to Goodwill and helped me clean myself up. And she just said, oh my God, I didn't realize it was this bad. I was like, yeah, I don't mean like going to the toilet and having a nice little throw up. No, it was uncontrollable. Something that unless you've been through it, you can't really explain. I proceeded to pull over 2 times, one being at Discount Tire, Pacific Beach. On my way home, shout out to the Discount Tire guys. Every time I drive past that establishment, I think about that night. So get home, proceed to vomit for the rest of the night, thinking to myself, all right, this is not over. It doesn't feel like it's ending anytime soon. I'm expecting, basically from what other people say, is like a taper off, right? You start to feel less nauseous throughout the day. You start to have less and less vomiting as the days go on. I'm not having any of that. So 16 weeks go by, 17 weeks go by, 18 weeks go by. I'm looking into like medical leave for work. What are the policies? Is my job protected? I'm starting to spiral because things are not getting better. And I'm just like, how can I go on like this? Is this going to last forever? When will this end? So around 18 weeks, one day I start vomiting at noon, which is sort of out of character for how my days were going. And my husband was like, what is going on? I mean, this is crazy. We basically don't even hang out anymore because I'm just vomiting all afternoon when he gets home from work, all evening, until I can finally pass out. I call my OB and say, I've been vomiting every 30 minutes for 24 hours. My pee is like brown. I can't keep a liquid down. I take a sip of water, I throw up immediately. I haven't kept anything down in 24 hours. You need to go to the ER. So at this point, I call my husband and I can't get a hold of him. He's on a meeting. I'm crying. I'm worried about the baby. So I call a friend who lives somewhat close by, and she drops everything, shows up at my doorstep, has a puke bowl in the front seat and tells me to get in, and she'll take me to the ER. Keep in mind, I got pregnant in February of 2021. So this is a few months after that, still COVID-y times, right? So we get to the ER, there's all of these policies in place. Once you check in, you can't go outside. You have to wear a mask. So I am vomiting in the restroom at the emergency room for 3 hours. And I asked them, can I go outside? I need some fresh air. No, you'll lose your place in line. So they finally take me back. And I'll never forget the nurse that I had. I tell her, my whole story. I'm 18 weeks pregnant. I've been vomiting for 24 hours, every 30 or so minutes. I can't keep anything down. I haven't been able to keep anything down this pregnancy in general. I can't keep water down. My friend called me one time and she said the word vegetable, and I threw up at the thought of vegetables. The nurse looks me in the eye. Babe, this is hyperemesis gravidarum. This is a medical condition. This is not normal. After telling her, my doctor's office has told me vomiting in pregnancy is normal. If you're vomiting for less than 8 hours a day, it's considered normal. Just try all the natural or over-the-counter remedies and keep pushing on. It's going to taper off and you're going to feel better soon. She said, absolutely not. This is not normal. And the relief that I felt from her acknowledging that this was not normal and I wasn't just weak was so amazing. I don't remember her name, but I remember exactly what she looked like. We need to take you in for extra ultrasounds. The tech is going to check on the baby, make sure that he's doing okay, and we're going to get you some IV fluids, get you some meds, and make sure that you're taken care of from here on out. So hook me up to IVs, multiple bags of fluids, multiple different medications. My husband is rushing to the ER. It was so many feelings, right? Because it was such a relief, but I was still so sick. I was vomiting into a bag the whole time I was there. It took a long time for the meds to really kick in and get some relief, but I finally was discharged. I was sent home with multiple prescriptions for some pregnancy safe medications and told to follow up with my OB. The first medication that they gave me didn't really help. They said that one was sort of hit or miss. Some women it works for great, and other women it doesn't help. So that one didn't work for me, which surprise, surprise, nothing worked for me. The second medication that they gave me, finally, I started to get some relief. And by the time I went to the 20-week anatomy scan, I was starting to have some good hours where I felt pretty normal. I was finally able to eat something and put on some weight. I was able to drink water again. I was feeling like, okay, we're turning a corner here. And going back to my comment about waiting, just waiting all of these things out is such torture, especially the first time. You're so excited, obviously, and you're so eager to see your baby and hear their heartbeat and just confirmation that everything is still going well. The waiting for that 20-week anatomy scan, it's so hard to wake up and wait for the next thing. I really felt so impatient with that pregnancy. But once I started to feel a little bit better with the meds, things really started to look up. The rest of the pregnancy was luckily very uneventful. Being able to exercise again and get outside and get some fresh air and, some fresh air and some sunlight and a day without vomiting is good for your mental health. It's such an interesting perspective shift because, you take those things for granted, right? And anytime anyone has a health hiccup, they'll tell you health is everything, but truly health is everything. And that was very humbling for me. I thought by 22, 24 weeks, I was in the clear, and turns out that I was just on a good medication. Anytime I started to think, I'll just wean off these meds, I instantly got sick again. So I was on meds for the rest of my pregnancy. I still had a few bouts of vomiting here and there, but it was minimal in comparison to what I experienced for the first 20 weeks. It's crazy what women are expected to endure. Obviously, this is not everyone's experience, but working at all during the first trimester, even if you have no nausea, you're so exhausted. I've never felt so tired in my life than in that first trimester. And we're just expected to grin and bear it, push through, toughen up. So-and-so is doing it. So why are you having such a hard time? I mean, it's crazy. It will make you start spiraling mentally. This story, like I said, it's not a super positive story, but it does have a silver lining. I went into this pregnancy very naive. I knew almost nothing about pregnancy, breastfeeding, birth, postpartum. It was really learning on the job. And I think that's what happens for a lot of women, especially women who are maybe the first to go through it of their friend group or are on the younger side and just haven't had much exposure to it. But the silver lining was really that I learned to advocate for myself and trust my own body. I didn't trust my body. And I don't think that anything that was said to me was malicious or of ill intent, but I do feel like I wasn't really advocating for myself in a way that made anyone really listen to me. And I just kept going back home and being like, okay, well, they keep telling me this is normal, so I'm going to continue on. My mom called and came to visit. This is not normal. You need to get a second opinion. And I would just roll my eyes and be like, Mom, like, it's going to end soon. What do you know? When you're in that state where you're so sick and miserable and depressed and you're feeling guilty for having all of these feelings, it's hard to even accept help because you mentally can't take anything else on. I was like, I'm fine. It's going to pass soon. You want to listen to the people, the experts, and you want to believe that what happens typically for other women is going to happen to you. In my case, which is only about 2% of women who are diagnosed with hyperemesis gravidarum, I did not have the normal trajectory of a normal pregnancy, but who would have thought, right? But like I said, the silver lining is that I really learned to trust my body, to advocate for myself, to stop trying to please other people. And I learned to ask more questions and speak up a little bit more and be a little bit more sure-footed in what I was saying, because I knew it wasn't normal, but I truly didn't know how to advocate for myself. So I have some questions from submissions that I'll answer. Someone asked, what would you tell your pre-pregnancy self if you could go back? I would just tell myself that you are the only person that's going to truly advocate for yourself. You are the only person that can tell people how you feel. Other people will tell you what's normal, what's typical, but speak up. It's okay to speak up. It's okay to get a second opinion. It's okay to not trust the medical advice that you're getting. And that's so hard for me to say because I want to trust the medical system and I want to believe that doctors and nurses have your best interest in mind. And I do believe that. I just also feel like the system is set up such that cases fall through the cracks sometimes, especially when you're young and you aren't really good at speaking up. And I would just say, don't minimize yourself to just go along with what they're saying is normal and typical. And obviously hindsight's 2020. Like, I couldn't have learned all of this without going through it. As someone who has experienced hyperemesis gravidarum, do you have any advice for someone going through it right now? So I would say advice for someone who's experiencing nausea and vomiting in general, not just hyperemesis, because no matter what level sickness you have in your pregnancy is miserable. And my advice would be to give yourself a break. I kept telling myself, like, toughen up. Everybody goes through this. And I did not need to toughen up. I needed to listen to my body and I needed to go get some help and I needed someone to really listen to me. I kept minimizing my feelings and my thoughts to just kind of placate everyone around me. I didn't want to be a burden. I didn't want to be annoying to anyone. So I didn't really want to talk about it. I didn't want to complain. So yeah, I would just say, like, reach out to other women going through pregnancy alone, especially in the first trimester or whatever week you get to where you're feeling really sick. Going through it alone is probably the worst part. At least if you have someone who you can just talk to candidly, even if it's a community online. I mean, I even found solace in reading through what people had to say on Reddit. Just finding a community that you can talk to is so helpful. And also, don't worry about being annoying to the medical staff. I mean, that's what they're there for. They are hired by you to help you and support you. So call in, get an extra appointment, get a second opinion. I mean, I wish that I would have spent more money on my care versus stuff that I was buying for the nursery and my baby shower and all of these things that are, more frivolous. I wish I would have spent that money on my actual care and support, because that would have obviously gone further than a bunch of swaddles and pacifiers that I never used. This is a good one. Because you had such a hard pregnancy, were you afraid to get pregnant again? Does it keep you from wanting more kids? So I originally thought I wanted 3 kids, close in age, because I come up from a family where I am the oldest and my brother is almost 6 years younger than me. And I really wanted to create a bigger family that had kids closer in age so that they could, go through childhood together. That was sort of the goal. But after going through pregnancy, I definitely had to rethink things a little bit. I have 2 kids and my kids are just under 3 years apart, but I told my husband there's no chance in hell I could get pregnant again before my first could go to at least a half-day toddler program so I could puke in peace for at least a few hours a day. So we waited until my son was 2 to even start thinking about it. It definitely deters me from having more kids. I really truly feel like I lost a good chunk of time with my son while I was pregnant with my second, because I was just, again, so sick and just so tired. I mean, I couldn't be the mom that I wanted to be when I was pregnant. And obviously I feel guilt about that. Even though I know I shouldn't, because such is life and like you do the best that you can. But I feel like I missed out on time with him because I was sick with my second, even though I wasn't as sick. And that's a story for another time. Did you get conflicting advice? I didn't so much get conflicting advice from medical professionals as I got anecdotal advice from well-meaning friends and family and strangers on the street. I know that that advice is, again, well-meaning, but when you are puking for hours a day for weeks on end, let me tell you, I tried everything. Ginger, lollipops, whatever magical things that predatory marketing will tell you online is going to fix everything. I tried it all. Seasickness bands. And truly, like when you have hyperemesis, there's no fixing it with natural remedies. I know that those anecdotal things work for a lot of women. It was super disheartening to have none of those remedies work, but yeah, I tried it all. What was your favorite part about pregnancy the first time around? I will say that I absolutely loved starting to feel those flutter kicks. I had a posterior placenta both times, so I started to feel movement with both kids around 15 weeks. When you have an anterior placenta, it's on the front of the body. You typically feel the kicks and the movements later on, 20, 24 weeks. But with both kids, I had it posterior, so I didn't have that cushion on the front of my belly, so I could really feel them moving around. And I will say I do miss that in pregnancy. I never was the Pinterest fashion mom that I thought I was going to be. I wanted to dress cute. I wanted to dress up the bump. I wanted to go on a baby moon and have all of these looks. And let me tell you, that never happened. I was sweaty and just felt mostly disgusting the entire pregnancy. I ended up gaining almost 50 pounds with both pregnancies. I mean, after 20 weeks of vomiting and not being able to eat any food, not only was I starving, but I was also so excited to eat food again that the weight came on real quick. What is the worst pregnancy advice you ever received? I don't feel like I got a lot of advice in pregnancy. I feel like what society and social media will tell you to do in pregnancy is to like prepare for the baby and buy products. And we talk about this a lot. Taylor and I on the podcast, we talk about the predatory marketing and motherhood, and mothers are probably the biggest market out there. And there's just so much stuff that I bought that I didn't need or that I could have gotten, later on. I mean, why did I feel the need to create a full-blown medical kit for my children when I was 25 weeks pregnant? I don't know. So there's a lot of noise on social media, and we'll tell you to tune out the noise, but truly tune it out. There is plenty of time to get the stuff that you need after the baby comes. Of course, especially your first pregnancy, you want to make a registry and stock up on all of the things that you truly need, but those items are way fewer than you think, or social media will have you think that you need. And a lot of times the things that work for some moms don't work for others. You really truly need less than you think you do. How did pregnancy intersect with your career or ambitions? I mean, this pregnancy made me realize that I did not give a flying you-know-what about my career at the time, because when you're nauseous from the moment you open your eyes in the morning to the moment you close them at night, you really don't care about anything else but feeling better. And that continued on for me throughout pregnancy and into postpartum. I had planned to go back to my job in tech after I had the baby, and I did everything I could to not go back to work after. I just wasn't passionate about what I was doing. It was, a perfectly good job with great benefits and a great salary and all kinds of perks, but I wanted to be with my baby, and I didn't really truly start thinking about what my ambitions were and what I was passionate about again until Taylor and I started this podcast. So here we are. I think that motherhood lifts the veil on what you think is important. And obviously it's different for everyone, but for me, it was very clear. How was your relationship impacted by a hard pregnancy? I mean, my husband, both of us, we just didn't know what was coming for us. Obviously, we were not expecting me to have hyperemesis gravidarum. We were not expecting it to last so long. I obviously wasn't expecting to be hospitalized. Yeah, it was really hard because there wasn't anything that he could do to help me. Truly, there was nothing he could do. There was nothing that anybody could do. We lost weeks with each other. We were newlyweds and I was glued to the bathroom floor, sleeping next to the toilet. So yeah, it wasn't a fun time. I, of course, felt resentful because like his life continued. He was going to work and he was trying his best to support me. But I was like, you did this to me. How dare you? If you could rewrite the story society tells about pregnancy, what would you change? I would just say that this like toxic positivity around pregnancy is just not helping anyone. Of course, many people have incredible pregnancies and that can be normal, but many people have very trying pregnancies. They don't feel beautiful. They don't feel happy. And there's a lot of guilt around that. Many people just agree that it's a means to an end, and that's okay. It's okay to not love it. I just hate this idea that pregnancy is a beautiful time. It just isn't always, and that's okay. Someone asked how to get through the third trimester. She says she's 33 weeks. She's a first-time mom, and she's so nauseous and uncomfortable, and I feel this so deeply in my bones. It is just brutal. I know people who got through their pregnancies with no aches and pains, no nausea, no food aversions. I mean, truly just like a breeze, and the jealousy that I feel for those people, like the limit does not exist. But I don't really have any advice because it's just a means to an end. I mean, you just get to the end and it's all worth it. You have your prize. It's your baby and there's no cutting corners. There's no fixes. For me, both times, even though my second pregnancy was less brutal than the first, it still wasn't what society will tell you it is like. It wasn't painless. It wasn't beautiful. I still gained 50 pounds and felt fat and sweaty the whole time. So I don't know. Godspeed. Did you ever try Shettle's method? This is one about trying to conceive. So Shettle's method is where you time your sex so that you can control the gender of your baby. The idea is that male sperm swim faster, but they have a shorter lifespan, and female sperm live longer, but they swim more slowly. So the idea is that sperm can live in your body for up to 5 days. And if you have sex on the earlier side of the fertile window, say, 3-4 days before ovulation, you are more likely to get pregnant with a girl. And if you have sex on the day of ovulation or the day before, you're more likely to have a boy. That being said, from what I've read, the research shows it's truly 50-50 or 51-49, which is not really promising. But I know people who swear by it and worked for, and then other people who are like, I only make boys or I only make girls. My husband really wanted a boy first. So we did try the first 2 months. And then when we didn't get pregnant the first 2 months, we were just like, screw it. Like, we're obviously happy with any gender, a healthy baby. We don't care. We just want to get pregnant. So that all went out the window. Let's just try to get pregnant in general. So I want to wrap this up with a question about the funniest pregnancy moment. I gotta say that the award goes to my friend Valeria, who was in the car with me when I vomited all over myself at a red light. We laughed, we cried, we did it all. So yeah, pregnancy has a wide range of normal and it is a wild ride. And that is my pregnancy story with my son. If you guys like this story, I can do the story of my daughter's pregnancy, which I did not have hyperemesis. I will say I was still sick, but it was not as bad. So to give someone hope for other pregnancies, they can be very different. So if you're having a rough time, maybe your next one will be better. Godspeed. I can't believe I'm going to save this, but I do think I want to do it again and have a third. But I will say that the pregnancy is the thing that keeps me from wanting a third. So your feelings are valid. I hope that this gives someone the confidence to advocate more for themselves and to really trust and listen to their bodies, because that is what came out of this experience for me. And it really helped me advocate for myself better the second time. And I do think that's what helped my pregnancy experience the second time a lot. So my son is now 4.5 years old and he's a perfect angel. So that's it. Thanks for listening and keep me posted if you guys like this story. If you like this forum where Taylor and I are solo, we're trying it out because I'm trying to give her some maternity leave. But thanks for listening and don't forget to follow us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Thanks for tuning in and we will be back next time. Me and Taylor. We'll see you then. Bye.